And then we are up. And whenever I want to stop, I just stop. And
Exactly, and
This
then
is
the
all one
DCR,
file.
yeah, the DCR, you're just ready to record. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, sorry.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Tim, we're all set.
Okay. All right, we will go ahead and call the Finance Committee to order. Commissioner Hardy is out of town, so I will be filling in for him. We could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Beggs.
Here.
Mr. Morse.
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker is here, and Mr. Hardy has been excused by the chair, but he is attending in Zoom. He will not be able to vote, but he is attending in Zoom.
Hey, Mr. Hardy.
Well, yeah, no one told me he would be Zooming, so he's not set up in here for Zoom.
Well,
No,
maybe,
it might be just, attending and,
He's just watching.
yeah.
Okay.
He just texted me.
excused, not Zoom, but he's
Yes.
Can you give some advice on how to lead a meeting?
Yeah, right.
Does he know how to use this computer? That would be good.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes from the November 9th meeting.
I'll make that motion, Morse.
support Walker.
Motion, Mr. Moore, support, Mr. Walker. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Very good. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Walker.
I'll support that, Morse.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Very good. Agenda is approved. Any public comment for the finance? Mr. McKean.
Morning, Gary.
Morning, sirs. Morning, ladies. I'm speaking as a private citizen, representing the Little Point Sauble Association. Little Point Sauble Association was established in 1907 along the lake shore. There's 122 cottages that have been established over those years. And recently we had a catastrophic fire, and actually now it's about 4 years ago. And we've been working with the 911, Mason Oceana 911 board to find some type of a solution for communication. One of the things that we found at the fire department and when police services are down into the Little Point Sauble area or anywhere along the lakeshore, there is no radio reception. So fortunately, over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, the 911 board has been looking into solutions to this problem. Recently, at their meeting in October, they approved the purchase of 6 special Motorola radios that will allow an 800 band reception, which is typical of police services. But also, these phones will be allowed what's called push to talk, and they also allow phone conversations. They will be headquartered at the 911 center. There will be 3 for Oceana County and 3 for Mason County. And as a result of that, the 911 board is looking to put in what's called a mesh system in the Little Point Sauble Association. It would be a beta test area. And this would allow any emergency responder to go on their conventional radio or phone, get into the high-speed internet, which has been provided over the last number of years through Great Lakes Energy and the TrueStream project. And that would allow them to go directly into the 911 center through fiber optic. So this is a huge opportunity to go forward with life-saving issues and along the lakeshore. It does not only cover just the lakeshore, but any areas in both Mason and Oceana County that are void in radio transcription. So we'd like to thank, as a Little Point Sauble Association, we'd like to thank Ray Heisel, who is the director of the 911 Center. Troy Maloney was very instrumental in working through some of the issues that we had with the 911 board, who obviously you're very familiar with, is our Oceana County Emergency Services provider. Also Sheriff Mast, who is the chairman of the 911 board. He was very helpful in entertaining opportunities to figure out a way to go forward with this as well. Thank you for your time. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer those. I'll be back.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. It's an exciting step forward there for that project. It's Yes, been in the works for a while. Any other public comment? All right, with that, Ms. Meyer, consideration to adopt resolution 23-13, allowing for a 63-day review of the Oceana County Master Plan.
So, the planning commission has asked the county board to, adopt this resolution, which would allow for the 63-day review of the Oceana, County Master Plan. From there, there will be, a distribution of the draft that will go out, and then, from there, public notices for public review and a period, of a public hearing, which will be on March 7th. So this will allow for that time to review the draft master plan.
Questions or discussion?
I guess I'll just say as a member of the planning commission, yeah, it's been a process, a good process, nothing, I wouldn't say, negative, just taking a little longer what I think we all would like. And also, but one thing that we wanted to make sure was in there was the results from the housing study. So that was something that put us a little bit behind, but we found that as valuable information. So, but yeah, fully support our adoption or our approval of the 63-day review period starting today.
No, actually, January the 4th.
What's that?
This is January 4th is when it'll start, the 63-day approval.
But I'm saying approve it today.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion on the master plan? Next up, consideration to appoint Gina Loera, thank you, to the Brownfield redevelopment as the planning commission representative.
So this, position is open, and, the planning commission, asked that Gina be appointed to the Brownfield as their planning commission representative.
Discussion on that topic?
Phil, can you give us some background on the person?
Yeah, and I would invite Gary, if that's okay, to give some background as well, because he's on the planning commission as well. But yeah, she's been on our planning commission probably a year and a half now, and she's demonstrated that she's definitely forward thinking, but you know, she's grounded too in what's important. Has background in zoning and understanding of zoning laws and how those things work. She's in real estate, lives in Perry Township. Very much support her being part of the Brownfield, because again, the whole vision piece, she has it, you know, of, hey, what could this be, or what could we do here, what could be done here. So yeah, I fully support her as well.
Thank you, Phil.
I would say that a year and a half ago, we had an opening in the planning commission, and we had 5 resumes that were submitted for that application, and we reviewed those really well. We interviewed each of the 5 potential contestants, I guess, it's not the right word, but
Candidates.
yeah. But we found that she would be actually a great fit for the planning commission. And since she's been on the planning commission, and because of Vince not being able to be at some of our meetings more recently due to medical issues, she's taken over as the chairman. She was elected vice chairman this last year. She shows a great attitude toward the county, and really has a great opportunity to learn. She'll be a great asset to the Brownfield board. Doesn't have all the knowledge that probably some of the longer term people on the board do, but I think you'll find her to be a fresh of breath there in that time. So I would support her as well.
Any discussion?
So the other option would be me, so.
Ah.
No, that's not true.
Mr. Walker.
Mr. Beggs, I appreciate the forward thinking of having somebody who was on the planning commission be on the Brownfield. I think that was a good move and a good thought, and obviously this person, you know, comes very highly recommended. So.
All right, moving on to the next consideration of adoption of the MSU extension agreement for services.
So this is the, agreement for services with MSU Extension that, is provided to the board each year, according to what the board has set forth in the county budget for fiscal year 2024. And we we're asking that agreement be approved today.
Kelly, do you have any comments? A pretty standard issue agreement that we've gone through in the past, is that correct?
It is exactly the same as last year, the standard contract we use in every county. I just want to be available for any questions today. I won't be able to stick around for the actual board meeting, so again, if there are concerns, great to appreciate to respond to those today.
Yep. Any questions, discussion?
When I look at the à la carte and the base is 49.1, how do we come up with the other halftime at 35K?
Because the base is part of the formula, I shared that with Commissioner Hardy, and I think it was circulated around, but the base is a population-based charge, so on the 2010 census, when this last version of this contract was set up, I believe at that time every county started with a base fee of $30,000. And then I think it was, don't quote me exactly, but maybe 10 cents a person based on the population at that time. So base fee plus population-based fee. So it's really not at all connected to a salary or a position or a number of people. It's an assessment based on being a county and then your population size.
So that's the base. So then the halftime additional at 35K, how does that happen?
How
Does
does
that make
happen?
a full-time job, a $70,000 a year annual position, or?
Yeah, for salary and fringe, yeah.
Yes, so these numbers here are salary and fringe. It's complete.
Yeah, I think, again, we've had that conversation previously about where that calculates in terms of fees. And certainly you can debate whether that fits or is comparable. I would argue, it's pretty reasonable given today's job market and the competitiveness, that's out there to secure folks, but depends what the position is.
Any other questions, discussion?
The full 49,133 is not all for the coordinator though, plus the 35, right? Part of that's the base assessment that goes just to like MSU for administration, is that correct?
So, and again, I don't think I have that right in front of me, but you're referring to the assessment 49, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the base level contract that supports extension being in the county. It would help keep me here, it helps access to our broader systems.
Right, that's what I was figuring. So it's not the whole 49, it goes towards the 4-H coordinator.
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, I was doing the math on that the other day, and I'm not sure how they divide that half of the, because they can't do the reverse math, take 35, is it, 37, off the 49, so that really means, if that was the case, your contribution to everything else extension is 14,000 in the assessment if you took that. I'm not following my logic, but yeah, it's covered through a portion of that assessment, even though it's paying for half. The university is paying some dollars out of pocket because of how those add up.
And then the office at this 146,000 would run as it has been running historically.
So this is based on, and I can jump back to what I submitted with the initial budget. I do have that in front of me, but that was based on the half-time county investment in Kathy Licky's position. The other half is paid through the university as my direct support for the district, and then 15 hours a week for the clerical tech for the 4-H support. Yeah, just don't have the wrong way, but I have.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I don't think this is any different than what we signed, than what we're looking at last year. No.
The structure is exactly the same, absolutely.
Thank you.
Kim, I just have a very easy, simple question for Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, this agreement is going to be pretty much the things that the MSU Extension has done in the last couple of years. There's no changes to what you're doing or nothing like that. It's gonna be pretty much status quo as far as, you know,
Within
reason.
Certainly, there's no plan to change or reduce anything. I mean, we're always seeking ways to bring more services to the
Okay.
county.
Okay.
Not all the services we bring in are connected to this contract, of course.
I'm always in favor of you doing more.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, our community nutrition, so last year we launched our community nutrition person back into Ottawa County, having had before my time, maybe a 5-7 year gap. So that person is now 1 year into their tenure in Ottawa County, and of course is building their partnerships and their productivity. So I mean, I expect that will be a little area of additional growth, but that's not a position that you're directly supporting. That's federally funded through SNAP-Ed. So we have in fact, it's about to be reposted, a water use efficiency educator. It's kind of an irrigation specialist who we are going to be seeking and could potentially land. It's unlikely it'll be in Oceana simply because we don't have space. But there was a request to put that person in this county. We might house them technically in Mason, but they would serve a region of neighboring counties.
And then to qualify that for my fellow board members, I have no thoughts or no information at all that anything was going to be reduced. You know, it's just that, so we all know that we're going forward with where we're at. So that's all, the only reason the question was asked. Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And good luck with your next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, next up, consideration of adoption of budget adjustments to correct current budget 2023.
So, just like previous years, we're providing an adjustment to correct line items throughout the budget. Yes, and I provided a revised version of that, and it's simply an $800 revision. You'll see that I circled the one thing on the left-hand side there. I increased that by the $800 because there was a line item that we pulled off of there, a revenue line that needed a correction via journal entry, so it reduced that amount, so we didn't need to have that in there. So as you can see, it's quite large, but we're just correcting line items that went over. Several of the ones there are revenue lines, and then others within several of the funds. Sure.
But, go ahead. If, so this isn't the additional amounts, this is what the new amount is, the new budgeted amount's gonna be in each line, correct?
No, it's gonna increase that.
By these
By
amounts?
that amount,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Begg?
Yes.
I talked to the administrator about this just a little bit. When we get something like this, the only way, some of them are self-explanatory, what departments they're at, but the only way that I can really, find out where they are is just to look back at the last budget. And for me, it would be helpful if I had just a page or two with each one of these account numbers, what department it was, when I was looking back and forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Well, I provided that during when we were working through the budget process, but, yes, I will make sure that you get that. If I'm providing that to you, I'll give that to you as well.
That would just be helpful.
Yeah,
Thank
certainly.
you for that, thank you for
And
that.
along the same chords, I would, if it's, I know it makes it more information, but if we could have like a column with the budgeted amount, the original budget
The
amount.
approved amount and then the new amount.
Right. Well, yeah, we don't have to have necessarily the additional amount and the approved amount, just so I can see, how much more did they spend, how much above their budget amount did they spend. I'd like to see that. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah, I like the format of this.
Yeah,
because
me
it's
too,
easy to
yeah.
read, and not to add too much, but maybe expenditures and and the, revenues would have to go on 2 different pages. And if we can refer back to the account number and know what page they are.
Well, yeah, just put a landscape and then we can fit more columns.
But yeah, but keep this size fonts. For-
Yeah.
For the senior members of the board, please keep it so I can read it. Oh, did I say that?
But am I clear what I think would be helpful for me
Yeah.
with the budgeted amounts for those departments?
Yeah.
It's nice, it's nice to have it, and it's nice to, so it's easy to understand and not have to look through the whole budget.
Right,
to find
exactly,
it.
that's what, yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep, I get
So,
it too.
so if I'm understanding the bottom line, we've had $3.6 million additional revenue than we were expecting.
Yes,
Than the
but-
original budget was for.
Yes, but
And then-
keep in mind that a lot of those are other funds, so that's not affecting your general fund
Gotcha. Yep. And
by that
then,
amount.
and then an additional $2.5 million of expenditures that weren't part of the original budget.
Correct.
And so, with the general fund in mind, what is the rough overall effect on the general fund? Is it a deficit or is it income?
No, it's, you have actually more revenue. What I have on that spreadsheet is the revenues and expenditures are equal.
Okay,
So when I'm making that adjustment, it's gonna be equal across the board, and I believe it was, roughly 640,000, I believe it was, that was increasing that. But I want you to know that I still have an adjustment on some revenues that we need to increase, because we brought in actually more than what we thought we were going to bring in. So, I'm waiting for a journal entry to be turned in to be completed, but I'll have another adjustment, before the board, at the next meeting.
okay, Mr. Walker.
One of the examples that went through my mind when I was looking at this is all of the work that our county treasurer did with the land bank. And she brought in the $200,000 for the first, distressed property, and then she brought in another $500,000 for demolition. Those things weren't budgeted. So they're gonna show up as revenues, and then they're gonna show up as an expenditure. And, it's just having a progressive administrator in that department that brought those in, that there was no way we could budget for them.
Right.
And there's other things in here that are the same way. They were grants that we got, so it's not as if we're blowing the budget right out of the water.
Right.
The
Yep.
majority of them are just, are taking care of the accountants so they can earn their money. So
Yep.
we've got all of that stuff done.
Right. All right. Any other questions, discussion?
So we're running about $1 million surplus.
All right, next item, consideration of adoption of proposed resolution 23-12 to adopt fiscal year 2024 budget and tax levies.
So we are finally at a place that I'm asking the board to adopt the fiscal year 2024 budget.
I got the news-
After-
I got
Finally
the
got
news-
all our notices.
Third
on.
I got the
time-
newspaper.
Third time's a charm. So, and I just wanted to say thank you to the county board for, the process, the budget process. Things went very smooth, and thank you to our department heads for all their hard work and, making this, happen seamlessly, so.
The budget process is nothing that's very simple or very easy, but it's probably the, most important responsibility that we have constitutionally and, for our departments in our county, to work through the budget. There's a lot to it.
Right. Any other discussion?
$13 million.
All right, moving on to the next one. Consideration to add fee structure for commercial solar projects to the permit fee schedule.
So, the building department, reached out to me and stated that they do not have a fee schedule for the commercial solar projects. on their building permit fees, and they asked that the board consider, adding this to the fee schedule. These amounts are, I believe, like, $1 or $2 less than what the state charges, so they're asking that that be added. Bob reached out to me about wanting to know if this is going to have any effect on the legislation that was just passed. And the legislation that was passed actually has to do with location, rather than the fee schedule, so we are okay with moving forward with this.
Do we have an example, if somebody was to put in a solar field? I look at the huge one that's down in between Sickinga Road and Business 31 in Montague and Fruitvale Road and, Stanton Boulevard, in that corridor there. I look at the size of that. Do we have any idea how much a permit fee would be for a huge solar field that comes in, the local permits?
Well, if you look at the fee schedule, it's going to be based off the number of units that are put in. So if it's greater than 50 units, they're charged $11 per module that they're putting in. If that makes sense.
We don't know how many modules, so
Right.
there's a lot of math to the entire
bet-
situation, and
I bet there's 700 or 800 or more
it's,
it's 120 acres. It's all the Sickinga farms. Curtis, do you think that's about right? 120 acres or so, that big solar field down there?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I lived right next to it,
Yeah.
for a long time, but that's
Seems about right. It's big.
well, it'll support over 3,000 homes when it's in full operation. And the reason I say that is I don't wanna get excessive, right off the bat. Do we know what other counties are doing? The fee structure. Let me qualify this. I agree that we have to do something with it, and I agree that we have to, adjust our fees. But if we're gonna adjust the fees, I'd rather look at places that have already adjusted them and get, have some technical data, if we can get it to go by.
Comparables.
Well, the person that is installing the solar panels, was working with Brooke on this, and they said that the amount that she's proposing is in line with many of the other ones that they work with. Because when they give the bid for a project such as this, they incorporate those permit fees into that amount. So, and that's where this issue's coming up, is that they have a project going on right now, and they aren't charging for that because they don't have the fee structure in line. Which is why this is on the agenda so quickly, otherwise we wouldn't have considered it, so.
So I think we need to have it. I'm in favor of it, but who actually conducts the inspection? Like in Claybank, let's say Claybanks Township has a big farm that comes in, let's say. Who actually conducts that? I mean, who do the fees go to? They go to the county,
It goes to the county,
and then we have somebody on our staff that conducts that inspection.
yes.
Is that the electrical inspector then? Or who would that be? And then are they qualified? I mean, what qualifies somebody to be able to know what to look for in an inspection of a solar field farm?
Mr. Beggs, in your area, we had a little bit of a glitch on cell phone inspections being done.
Yep.
I think that Mr. Morris has a good thought, that we should have some type of a guideline on who and how those inspections are going to be done. If we're gonna charge even a developer, you know, $8,000 or $10,000 or more, you know, to do inspections on these, maybe we need to have, you know, some type of a guideline or a policy on how they're gonna be done and when they're gonna be done, you know, because I don't wanna get into another cell phone tower issue. Because some of the people who pull permits will not call for their inspections, and that creates a problem. And something this big, how do we know when they need to call for their inspections? And don't get me wrong, I feel as though we have a very competent, a very functional, and a very good, building inspection department. I think they do a wonderful job. We have very dedicated employees who do very good over there. But I just think that something this big, I'm asking the question, do we need, you know, guidelines on how it's gonna be done, or what happens if they don't call for inspections?
I think those are questions we need to go to the building department with. I'm not interested in micromanaging their policy. They're gonna be the experts, so maybe they already have that in place, and maybe because I imagine there's some mechanical aspects to it with footings and whatnot to support the structures, and then there's electrical, and maybe they already have that training, maybe they already have those policies.
Well, I would assume that they would have to,
Right.
because this is specifically for commercial, not
Yeah.
residential.
So I guess we just need to ask that question to the building department and see.
I emailed her.
Okay. You know, yeah, because I agree, we don't wanna charge for something that we really have no clue
Mm-hmm.
to enforce. At the same time, you know, the cell tower thing is still on my to-do list. Somebody needs to answer for why we have a commercial site that pulled inspections and then never had final inspections done.
And they turn the switch on to start.
Right, you know, so if you're in a home, you don't get an occupancy permit, but what do you do? So, I agree as well, if we're gonna charge a fee, we have to, the whole package needs to be there, and maybe the building department already has that determined, but,
It doesn't have to be 50 pages, it just has to be.
if there's no consequence for getting a final inspection, why do we even bother with inspections? Let's just lay it on the table there, you know, we can have laws, but if we don't enforce them, why bother?
There's gotta be a template out there for this policy somewhere that we can just copy and paste and make it, and again, I don't wanna micromanage the building department, I agree. Just,
So I would say, at this point, we kind of table this question just till we get a couple of those questions answered.
We're gonna be back in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Unless they can get us an answer between now and 11:30. But
So
that's a pretty rushed decision too, so.
the question was, who does those inspections?
what qualifies them, I would.
Just a policy on how the inspections will be done.
It's like Phil said, there's probably a template out there, and within the industry, there's experts, and within the experts, there's engineers that can tell you how many modules and find out what your typical, you know, permit fee per quarter acre is, or something of that nature, because they're coming, you know, we've seen them to ourselves already.
And I'm still not 100% certain that the state's not gonna trump a lot of this stuff. We just don't know.
Well, I'm pretty certain they will. Unfortunately.
You're bolder than I am today.
Well, and we already have fields planned. So, you know, they're already parked on Polk Road.
I don't wanna stymie anybody or slow it down, but I just think, I would hope we could move forward in 2 weeks on this and just not upset anything.
Yep.
And the developer, the department, you know, the building department could probably get a hold of the developer ask for some of these questions, and they may be able to provide who we can make a phone call to, or who a phone call can be made to do that. It's to protect the developer, and it's to protect us too. It's both ways.
All right, any other discussion? All right. Give Tracy a minute to finish typing her questions, and then, talk about, claims for payment.
So the claims, were provided to you. Are there any questions on those? Okay, if not, I'm gonna move on to administrator's report. I provided a report in your, packet. Wasn't really a big, report, just because we've been, finishing up a lot of administrative stuff as it relates to, preparation for the budget book. I've been working on the resolution and tailing numbers for that. I was contacted by Jill Sutton again about community action and wanting to know if a board member was interested in sitting on that board, and I know you are really busy with a lot of the committees that you already have. And I mentioned it to Bob and stated that I would be willing to attend those meetings via Zoom, if the board was okay with that, and then I can report back to you on what happens at those meetings.
Community action is based out of
Claire.
Claire. I don't think, do we have any volunteers to go to Claire once a month?
What do they do? What's their focus?
Community action is, it helps, they help people that are less fortunate. They do a lot of, it's providing commodities to people, helping, they have, preschool programs for those that can't afford to, have their kids go to a preschool program that you have to pay for. So they have a lot of, they have food pantries and different things like that, so.
Did community action, or do I have them mixed up with somebody else? Did they do weatherization programs on homes too?
They did, yes. So it's a
It's a nonprofit.
large range, yes.
Yeah.
All right, and then the other thing I wanted to touch base with you on is that, Mr. Lewis with the union has been in touch with me, with regards to the proposals that have been provided. I just wanna bring those figures to your attention. My response to those proposals have been that the county cannot sustain, increases that large. The initial, proposal was roughly $400,000, $395,350. That was the initial proposal that they came to the board with. The second one, they provided a 5-step and a 6-step. The 5-step would be an increase of $571,832, and the 6-step would be $693,106. So, my response to that to them was that the county cannot sustain hits like that in our budget, so.
May I?
Yeah.
I think respectfully, from my standpoint, that given those numbers, that we just need to notify Mr. Lewis of those numbers, that we will still entertain proposals from them within reason, but these two proposals, there's no way we can finance these. We just don't have the ability to finance $1 million or $500,000 in one department.
Well, I think the conversation after the first proposal was the same idea, come back to us with something more attainable, and they doubled their offer.
Exactly, exactly.
And
But,
so,
but respectfully, for our employees who he's representing, and that's what I'm thinking about, we just need to give him an answer. We just can't do this.
yep, I would agree, we're open to continue the conversation, but
And-
that's not gonna work.
And the format that we've had with the conversations with the administrator, I think has worked well, because she will bring them in and we did, you know, and we're not walking in any labor issues or reopenings or anything. That she can sit down and talk to them and along with the sheriff and see how it works.
Yeah, I will say, I'm comfortable with the conversation, but this has been an ongoing conversation since August. Now, if the delays are on their end, fine. I think that the longer we belabor this point, the worse it gets. So if there's a way to bring the conversation, and granted, it's been budget season, and I understand there's a workload, but if the delays are on their side, that's on them. You know, we're not gonna change that or, you know, beat them up to move faster, but it's been an ongoing conversation for a while, so if there's a way to continue the conversation a little more speedily, I think it'd be good.
Bring us something we can live with.
Yep.
And we'll consider it very seriously.
Yep. I would agree.
Paul, may I? Paul and Phil, yeah, are you on the same page with that?
Need to give him an answer.
Yeah, we need to do something. I think we need to do something, but that's not to that, we can't go that high, that's to that degree. I wish we could, but we can't.
Thank you for bringing it up, Tracy.
Okay, I believe that's all I have.
All right. Department head reports.
Go ahead. Age before beauty. All right, well, thank you, Curtis Burdette from the Oceana County Economic Alliance. Wanted to just kind of give you a quick, some wins at the end of the year. And also there is a Rural Development Fund grant that was just announced. That I had a couple ideas about if there's some funding required in order to do it. So there's this one page in the packets here.
Okay.
I'll just toss those around. And so I just wanted to talk to you to see if the commission might be interested in helping to support that. The Economic Alliance, so I mentioned previously, and I just want to throw out there, I've been trying to come and report to you guys about every quarter. So if that works good, if you want to hear from me more, let me know. I know you got a lot going on, so. But our board has divided some of the work, offered to step up and help and break things down into three categories: people, place, and prosperity. And people really looks at our workforce, our schools, all the things that relate to people. Our place is really about having a great place for people with placemaking. Like if you look at downtown Hart with the amphitheater and the pop-up shops and that really vibrant downtown, as well as being ready for businesses. So looking at our industrial parks, do we have the utilities that we need to bring in businesses and help them grow with the ones that are here? And then prosperity is really everything that helps bring wealth and success to individuals and businesses in our community. And so in each of those categories, we've had some great success. So with people, every month I have the opportunity to host a HR network, human resources network. We have HR and business leaders from around the county who get together. Usually about a dozen people, sometimes 15. We've had a couple a little bigger, a couple a little smaller. But just a great opportunity. We've had presenters come in and talk about different resources for ways to help workers. I get to learn about what's going on at the workplaces as far as they share some of the when applications are high, which this was a better year for getting more job applicants than the past couple of years have been. But also hearing about some of the struggles in keeping people and ways to attract high-skilled workers. So we tackled some of those pieces. So that was really good. For place, we had a developer day, and I think I talked about that before the last time I was here. So, but just to highlight, 35 people we had participate and 25 on the bus with us, and got to look at sites to develop and sites that are in construction, just kind of showing how Oceana County is a great place to do business. And then prosperity, you know, everything that helps businesses. One really great example, we've partnered with The Right Place and Nuevo and Lake County to host Pitch North, which next year will be in Oceana County. And so, but it's a 3-county partnership for entrepreneurs to get some startup money. And we had 2 top 5 finalists, Birch and Blossom from here in town, and then Big Skinny's Pretzels in Hesperia. So they both got some cash, and Big Skinny's, Brian, who's over in Hesperia, won the Audience Choice Award. So he got some additional funds. So just ways that have been really successful. Really appreciate the support of the commission to help us in achieving those goals. But I wanted to just talk about this grant. It just came up last week, so and it's due in January, so I'll have some work to do over the holidays if you think it's something that might be worth pursuing. But it's just for rural counties of Michigan, and really focusing on some planning or some support that helps, you know, grow what we're doing now. And this packet here that I gave you just has, it's got 2 different packets. That's why this one's stapled funny. This is one in Wyoming, doing a similar study where they're looking at, you know, what's the current business situation, what industries could we bring in, or what could we add on to what our businesses have. So we've got a lot of agriculture. What can we do to support that better? What businesses would go great right next door to the ones we have? And just kind of figuring out what we can do to keep the businesses and do that. Workforce analysis. So we did a study that we're just finishing up that the county supported with the EDA grant to match, looking at, you know, training, a training center, opportunities there. We just did a housing study, which is really great. So we wouldn't need to necessarily have that piece. I just kind of copied to show what we could do. Inventory and quality of life. So we've got a lot of great quality of life with outdoors here. And potentially a retail study. We've got a lot of small communities, so looking at things that could be done there. And so just wanted to kind of talk about or see if there was interest in applying for this grant. It's up to $100,000 grant. We would need a 30% match if we applied for the full amount there. A grant probably, projects probably like this, one proposed from Wyoming that I threw in there from Commerce County, Wyoming, is probably, I think their bids came in about 100,000. So depending if we wanted more or less, that's kind of what I was thinking. The idea here is not just to do a study, because studies are great, but we gotta, you know, figure out how we're gonna make these things happen. And the housing study is working on the follow-up with that to bring those pieces in motion. But I know there's a lot of pages, but I just included in the, if you scroll to the back there, flip to the back, the 16, 17, and 18, these are from Binghamton, New York, which is much bigger than us. So if you look at the price tags, they're a little more than what we would do here. If you look at what those project costs are, they're at $47,000 in Bingham, and it's about $250,000 in that this economic development group covers. So it's a lot bigger space, but just the idea that it's not just a study, but it's also looking at, okay, so what's the strategy? You know, getting the key leaders in the room. What is the timeline? What does it take to move these areas forward? So as we identify things, and another area I think we want to have in this study is really looking at tourism and figuring out what things can we do to connect our growth with our needs in that as well. So so it's come up fast. I've seen these, you know, what these studies can look like, and what the implementation that they put together can really be helpful for. Wanted to just see if there was any thoughts or questions, or if there might be interest in or funds to help if there is interest.
So the grant is for us to end up with a plan at the end, an action plan strategy moving forward.
Study the strategy and then the implementation. So helping actually to get those groups together and implement those changes, looking specifically at, whereas like the workforce training was just the study, this takes it all the way into the beginning of the action plan.
Yep, thanks.
Any other comments for Mr. Burdette?
Yes. I've been studied to the point that I have a headache. And there's a lot of the studies that have never been implemented, and I'm not saying this isn't gonna be implemented, but my concern moving forward with something like this, I believe we have to have a better handle on how much it's going to cost us. If you apply for a grant and you're given a grant for $400,000, I don't know where we're gonna come up with $120,000 match money for it. That's gonna be a problem. I think that if we move forward with this, we should decide how much we're willing to put in for a match, or we can afford to put in for a match, and that'll cap the total amount of money that and then you just narrow the scope of the study to be able to be done within that month, within those figures. Are you following what I'm saying? Rather than just move forward, ask the other commissioners. I would hate to see us put $120,000, and I realize it has the implementation and everything there, but I don't know where that type of money is gonna come from.
This one's $100,000 maximum, so it'd be a $30,000 match.
Correct, so for the maximum they would cover would be $130,000 project, they would provide $100,000, so the ask of the county would be
I heard you say 400,000 at one time.
Oh, if I said that, I misspoke, so my
But
apologies.
still, it's just a question of scale. I mean, like, your concern is still valid, it's
Yeah.
just a question. I mean, we don't have 30 grand to just throw around either to go up in smoke either, so.
And the key thing that I see here as an opportunity is we have new industries that are happening. We have the solar panels on Polk Road. We have, our processors are looking at, hey, what about on-site? I mean, and we have the problems with the digester in Fremont. You mentioned that before. But on a smaller scale, our processors looking at, hey, can we be doing this on-site? And so just kind of looks at some ways to help our growth for our businesses.
Our large processors have done a very good job on planning and developing. And I drive south of New Era all the time. That is a huge facility that they are building there. Unbelievable. Phil, would you agree?
Yeah.
And I mean, they started less than 3 weeks ago, and they have all of the footings and all the knee walls in for the whole steel structure.
What's going in there? I just.
Warehouse, or storage,
For
cold storage.
Cold, it's a controlled environment
For Burnett
storage.
Foods.
Okay.
It's huge, controlled environment. But, when I look at those, Curtis, and they're all good and they employ a lot of people, I also do not want to forget about the small people. Like you said, the entrepreneur who is looking to do something, to move forward, they need some help with it. To focus on those people. There are a lot of very intelligent people with very good ideas that don't know how to take that next step with it.
Any other questions or comments?
If I may, so I'm right there with you, Bob, about being studied to death and then nothing is done. I will say that's the point of this grant is to not get to that point where you have a study and then nothing's done. This is to, okay, what's the next step? This will pay for the next step to make sure that we are, not doing a study and then putting it on the shelf and not doing anything with it. That's really the point of this, from what I understand, correct?
Yes. And I think we're seeing industries growing in Michigan. There's the big push for technology. We're seeing new things that we've never had before, and finding where we fit in that, I think is a piece to look at. And it's hard for any one person to say, or any one community to say, and this helps to bring together, what Bonona Township wants versus what the City of Hart want. are never gonna be the same, but if we're looking at the same goal, we're in the same county, we need to make sure that we have very scarce resources. We wanna make sure that we're making good decisions, and this is a tool to help with that.
Is it the beginning or the end of January that you have to have this in?
Beginning of January,
So-
January 8th.
So we have one more meeting to make a decision.
Well, really, and also, if I may, his times for the next 2 weeks, if you're gonna put a lot of energy and effort into making this, and then, you know, we end up saying, nah, we're not gonna, you know, provide anything, which we, you know, it's okay. If this, and he put all that time and energy, he could have put it into something else. That's,
I'm in favor of this if it's a reasonable scope, something that I feel as though we can find, you know, the money to do it.
Yeah.
You know. I'm in favor of moving forward if we can, but
Well, we've had a housing study, and that's revealed a lot. My thoughts are that the next obvious step is what industries are we best suited to try and accommodate, which we already have. Heavy food processing is probably our largest industry. But what industry are we most capable of attracting? And so that's one question that I have as far as growth. I don't believe it's our job to grow the economy, it's our job to promote growth. And so what can we do to attract the best suited industry for our local economy? And so I don't know if that's part of the scope of what something like this could look at, but that's just the thing that comes to the top of my head.
so the study we've already funded, the workforce study, is going to identify what you're asking.
Okay.
But this, from what I understand, would then help implement whatever is decided,
Okay.
the action plan.
Okay.
Because there's a limit to what the workforce study can do. It's more just giving us information.
Sure.
There's like a first step action plan, and then he's done. Then that's what the RP has, is the action plan, but then nothing following up. This would be the follow up. I see that.
Okay.
And that, definitely that target industry and implementation is the key thing to me, is the target industry is who do we not have that makes sense, here in Oceana County. Also looks at supply chain, so we're a little limited here where we're getting a lot of things coming from Chicago or Grand Rapids. What opportunities are there in that supply chain for us to be in that ideal location, to deliver some of those things? So it's both the existing businesses, but also what new industry.
Yeah. Yeah, whether it's you know, cooperative industries, like, you know, so we think of our food processing, but then we have smaller industries of support, you know, like Triberry, you know, does a lot of fabrication work for the food processing industry. Now they're a small shop, but that's a supporting industry for the larger industry. And so, what makes sense for us to try and attract? And maybe it's not directly food industry, but it's a cooperative industry that supports the food industry.
Oceana County has a lot of silent multi-million-dollar industry that nobody knows anything. You drive past them every day and you don't realize how huge they actually are. Having worked with several of those people when I was doing outside sales, it is surprising how diversified and the size of the industry we actually do have in this county.
Well, I just anecdotally to that, you know, I can think of a little stall and a half garage over on Lake Holiday that's a machine shop, and you'd never know it, and it's one guy, but he supports an industry that supports the food industry, and it's just, there's a lot of those things that they don't hang a shingle, and they're not trying to operate under the radar. They have a niche, and they dedicate all the resources to that niche that moves up the food chain to equip a place like Peterson Farms or Burnett Foods to continue to do business locally rather than bringing those parts and pieces from elsewhere. So you're right, there's a lot of that silent industry.
out of them. And maybe this could help if they wanted to grow. But there again, when you talk about machining and stuff, where do they find machinists?
Yeah.
You know, and that may be something that can be addressed. You know, where do we find people that can program and maintain CNCs?
So if, just to wrap this up, if you could give a kind of a, you know, I understand asking for $30,000 and have to decide on that today is a stretch probably, but at least give Curtis maybe, unless you want to, of course, but, maybe give Curtis, you know, hey, a nod, you know, hey, let's at least move forward somewhat cautiously for him to put some work into this, or no, and you know, I'm not thinking that we're gonna go there, you know, so give him some direction, that would be appreciated.
I would be in favor of moving forward and see what we find.
Okay. And I would be too.
I would like to see the next stage, the next step.
Paul, you got an opinion?
Yeah, we hired Curtis to do a job, and let's give him the tools to do his job.
Let's give them the resources to do it, Paul.
Why have Curtis if we're not gonna
Yep.
play the game?
Well, very well put, Paul.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anything else for us?
Unless there's any questions, but hopefully it's been working out to have me in front of you about every 3 months. You need more, you know where to find me. I see several of you at meetings out and about too, so, and Phil's on our board, so you can always let me know if you need anything. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Curtis.
Thanks, Curtis.
Sure.
Curtis, thanks for opening the door for match funds. I appreciate it.
Oh, here comes the floodgates.
It's
Glad I
Mr.
went first.
McKean.
I think he had that planned.
It worked out just great.
Blocker.
So, Oceana County Parks, Gary McKean, at our November 4th meeting, we always look at our budget and see where we're at toward the end of the year. In 2021, we had the opportunity to have some money that was moved, $10,000 actually, to be moved from our 208, which is our general account, to what we call our 288 account, which is our matching fund account. And some of the things that we look at for matching funds, of course, would be the DNR trust fund grants, which we use heavily. We have 5 of those currently we work with in Oceana County Parks for pavilions and boardwalks and a number of different things. At the November 4th meeting, we voted among the 10 members of the board, of our commission, and we agreed by vote and unanimously that we would move $10,000 from the 208 account to the 288 account. So this is money that was budgeted into Parks budget. We're actually moving it into an account that can be used solely for matching grants. So when the opportunity with the DNR to come forward, those are typically 50% matching grants. As the county board has helped in the future, in the past rather, on various projects, the trail, for example. Back in 2012, there was a match that was made by the county. Some of that came out of the Parks Fund. That's how I think the 288 fund started. Basically it was $8,000 out of Parks, and the balance of that grant money came from the county for the trail. So in so doing, it's recorded on our minutes. It was brought to my attention that the treasurer, Phillips, has said that she would really like a resolution to be made by the county board to allow Parks to move $10,000 from the 208 account into the 288 account for the purposes of grant applications and match funds. That would take our balance of that account to about $38,000 roughly in round numbers. We do know that there's a $10,000 match that will be coming up for the Stony Creek project. We were able to do basically $2.3 million without any matching funds whatsoever. But building the new boardwalk with the 2 fishing piers, we got a grant for $120,000. It will require a match of $10,000, which would be taken out of the 288 account. We've already approved that at Parks. That will probably come out of our account in, I would think, probably in early spring or somewhere around probably April or May, somewhere in that area. So So that would bring that account back down to about 13,000. This would be supplemental to allow this to go forward. One of the issues that I have, with the budget that's somewhat limited, is the fact that we can never get ahead. We have projects that ARPA really helped us. We were able to build a number of different projects. That really was a really great opportunity for us to do that. But we never have enough in our budget to really go forward and move to another step and build something for the public, or to start a program for recreation, to work with the conservation district or with the rec clubs in the county. And this is an opportunity at least to take some of that money that is already budgeted and put it into this matching fund account for a rainy day. We don't know what the opportunity might be in the future, but we'd like to have some of that money put aside for what the future could be. So it would require a resolution. It probably doesn't need to be done. A motion, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay. We require a motion by the county board to be recorded, and it probably couldn't be done today because it's not on the agenda, but probably at the next meeting.
Good.
Any questions?
Hey, man?
Yep.
J.C., how is that gonna work? We're going into a new budget year, and this will be, will this be money that's that's transferred from the 208 to the other account for the fiscal year 2024 then?
It can be done in 23 or 24, because what happens with those funds, they are not pulled out of that department. They remain in that department.
We don't zero base out everybody
No.
at the end of the year?
No, you don't take their funds away from them.
So in the past, in 2021, we did the same thing. Dr. Sobey told us this is what we need to do. And quote unquote, it goes, as it was put to me, it goes into the piggy bank for the future. So we don't know what's really in the piggy bank, so to speak.
My feeling is, Mr. Beggs, is that the Parks Committee has been frugal with their money during the year, and they wanna transfer this to another line item going into next year, that I don't have a problem with that at all. I would support that motion for them to be able to do that. And I understand where the treasurer is coming from. I think we just ought to transfer it for them formally.
Mr. Erickson.
I would think that we can modify the 11:30 agenda to support that motion.
Agreed.
Now, let's just make it happen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. King? Anything else from the commissioners?
Janet, have you got anything?
Any public comment?
I actually wanted to, give you more information on the discussion with regards to the permits.
Okay.
Brooke did tell me that they do not have a policy in place for that. However, when the electrical inspector is the one that does those inspections, there are several inspections that happen on each of those modules. And the requirement is that they be able to see each piece of the module around it and under it. I also pulled up 5 other counties, and Nuego's was pretty high, but if you look at Manistee, Mecosta, and Clares, they're all 6, 10, and 12. And then Mason counties is 7, 12, and 14. And we are proposing 5, 9, and 11. So the 6, 10, and 12 is what the state has in place for their permit fees.
Answers the questions I had.
Raise it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would stand to reason that, electricity is electricity, so as long as there's connections made safely and an inspector that is qualified in those can handle that and read an engineer's drawing and make sure it's put together the way the people designed it.
It's gonna be a handful for an electrical inspector with all the other inspections that they have.
Yeah.
Because you look at the total number of permits that are pulled, it's usually electrical is the highest.
Yeah.
So, and if we have to adjust that issue because we're growing and we have more inspections, we'll address that issue later. We have to.
So we would be the lowest of all the counties that you surveyed
Mhm.
fees. What if we